that's what you have to be as an athlete and somebody who's being recruited. I think you have to be honest with yourself and be like, what are when I'm choosing a school, like what are my top things? Like, do I want to just go to, is number one just being a top tier program? Is number one that you want to play early? Is number one like I want to be in a big city? Was number one like I want to be somewhere where it's a great camp? Like you have to figure out what your number one is, because now when it comes down to all these schools that are recruiting you, or however many schools are recruiting you, you have to now take that in consideration. I know with me, my big thing was I wanted to go somewhere where I didn't need to play early, but I just wanted to have an opportunity to play early. Right. And I knew I did not want to go to a team that was bad. I wanted to go somewhere there. I had an opportunity to play early, and the trajectory needed to be at least pointing up. And I tell kids all the time now, it's like I sat down with my dad and we wrote this out. Like we put a a spreadsheet together saying like, hey, here's what I would like to do. Here are all the schools that are recruiting me. Like, we would go and what's their depth chart? Hey, this guy's a senior. There's 3 sophomores on the roster right now. There's they have 4 freshmen that they just brought in from last year. So now that's that. And it's like so. Doing all that late. I think the biggest thing that frustrates me is I don't think they don't do the leg work beforehand. And then all of a sudden they show up on campus and it's like, well, what the hell? Why am I not playing? It's like, well, did you know that they had 4 freshman receivers that they brought in last year? Did you know there was two all 5-star quarterbacks on the depth chart as freshmen that they brought in? Did you know that going in? And that always makes me wonder when kids choose schools. I'm just like, did you put the legwork in on your part to figure this out beforehand? Because I knew that. So my final decision came down to Oregon State, and Washington State. And I knew Oregon State, this is the Mike Riley era, and they had just transitioned when he got there away from running the double wing to more pro style offense. So they were low in terms of receivers. They didn't have many receivers. Like I said, their trajectory was going up. So I was interested. And Mike Riley was a, great recruiter. Him and Coach Johnson did great jobs recruiting me. So that's why I was interested. I knew Washington State had just came off of playing in the Rose Bowl in 97. And that whole receiver group were seniors. And they had a couple freshmen, but they didn't have any receivers. And I knew that Oregon only had Tony Hartley coming back. Now they had some freshmen, but in talking to the coaches, they're like, hey, it's still up in the air. They haven't really shown a lot as freshmen. And that's the thing. Like you can come in and have an opportunity to come in and play, because outside of Tony, we don't have another receiver. Now at Washington State, they ran a 3 or 4 spread offense at the time, which was just crazy, So the other 2 teams in Oregon State both ran pro style. So that's the other thing. Like, where did I see my chance? Which is why I really had Washington State as my first school, And I was like, well, they run a spread offense. They throw the ball. They need help at receiver. I think I'm really good. I think I can go in and play, So they were always my top. I had Oregon State as kind of second, because the same thing. I was like, they're gonna pro style offense. They don't have any receivers. Like I think they're on the way up. I think they can make some big plays. And then there was Oregon. I was like, they're a lot further ahead of where those other 2 schools were, but they had 3 freshmen that they brought in the year before at receiver. They had another guy who had played as a sophomore. So it was going to be, Tony, there's another guy and a couple other guys. So they had some established guys who could possibly come in and play. So the option wasn't there. And then, so how it worked for me was I went on my visits and it all just worked out. I talked to the coaches at Washington State and they said, yeah, it was the weirdest recruiting trip I'd ever been on, because they were so locked in. They were just so all about me. They're like, man, we really want you to get here. We can see you doing big things. You're going to be in this offense. This is going to be awesome. You're the number 1 receiver that we're trying to bring in. Da, 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 da. And then, our plan for you is we're going to bring you in. redshirt you and have you come in and put some weight on and get you ready for the seasons. And I'm just like, redshirt, like, so I'm not even gonna get an opportunity. Like, so I'm not saying this, but I'm thinking it, and I'm just like, so you're already going in knowing that I'm not gonna play my first year, so it just kind of it put me off.